Hey everyone, welcome to the Quarter Disorder podcast, and I'm your host, Tim Bowman. This episode is being recorded on Thursday night, August 3rd, 2023, and this is episode 0 of the podcast. It's kind of like a pre-show before we do the full launch of the weekly podcast series. Earlier this year, I put out an introductory post and episode on quarterdisorder.com just talking about plans for the podcast, and those are still in effect to do a more full-on show with my best friend Lewis. He lives in Texas right now, and we're just trying to figure out the logistics of getting all that set up with the equipment and everything. So the full show and podcast under Quarter Disorder is coming, but this is just an episode to post on the feed and get some content going. So in this episode, we're going to talk about a couple different things and kind of get like a show format going. We're going to talk about some television shows that I've been watching, some movies I've seen, some video game news, comic books, games I've been playing, and some new releases that are coming out this month that I think are pretty cool that I want to check out. So if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we are on iTunes, Spotify, all streaming platforms. You can go to quarterdisorder.com, which is the homepage to the website, or quarterdisorderpodcast.com, which will take you to the homepage as well. And at the top of the website, there is a section for the podcast where you can click into there, see individual episodes, and have a podcast page hub with all our information as far as how to subscribe to the site, RSS feed, and all our social media pages. The Quarter Disorder podcast is on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon. Wherever you are, we are there too. Just made a Blue Sky account a couple days ago, so we're on there as well. And every time we have a new episode and some new content, all the feeds will be updated with the show episode. So if you want to leave feedback on the podcast or just have any general comments and things like that, you can send an email to feedback@quarterdisorderpodcast.com. You can also go to the website, the homepage again, under the podcast section, and each episode is going to have its own post. So in that post, there's going to be show notes, the outline, and general links to stories that we talk about on the show, so you can go and check those out. And again, it'll have all our social media pages on there for you to follow and stay up to date with. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about some shows that I've watched recently. The first being Silo on Apple TV+. So this is actually the first show that I've watched on Apple TV+. I just actually signed up for this show specifically. I heard how awesome it was and really liked the premise of it and wanted to check it out. And just a quick mention, if you don't have Apple TV+, I do believe if you have a PS5 or a PS4, if you go into the Apple TV Plus app on the console, you can get like several months free. I think Target, the retail store Target, if you Google that, they have a kind of like a partner part of their website that has a link to get, I think, three months or a couple of months free of Apple TV as well, and you can stack those for new customers, so check that out. That's kind of how I subscribe, and I think I'm set until like 2024 or something like that. But Silo is a really great show. I finished it actually a couple weeks ago. There's 10 episodes to the season. It's the first season that just came out. Debuted on May 5th, and I think they were doing weekly episodes, so it ended on June 30th. And basically the show is about this community or like mini city that lives in, silos, basically, as the name of the show suggests, where they can't go outside. And you're kind of trying to figure out why they can't, and the episodes kind of get into that more. But in this society, it's like technology is kind of banned, so like things that we're used to, like, basic stuff from the old world, quote unquote, is like, banned, and you can get thrown in prison or expelled and thrown outside. And one of the main things they introduce early on in the season is if you get sent outside, your main goal is to like clean one of the cameras on the outside of the silo for like the citizens to watch and like kind of cheer you on. But the thing is, everybody ends up dying when they go outside. So you're kind of like discouraged from going outside. So basically, it's like a dystopian society. The show really reminded me of like Fallout, the video game series. Mixed with like a crime / like mystery show to it, which is really cool. The main character throughout the most of the season is the actress Rebecca Ferguson. I don't really know too much about her. I know she's been in like Mission Impossible and movies like that, but she was like really awesome as the lead character. She killed it. Her character was like a real badass on the show, but really everybody's a great actor on it. And I just kind of binged the show. It was like so good, just trying to figure out like uncovering more mysteries of the silo and why people are there and how did they even get there and how did the society form and why are they so scared about people finding out the truth and things like that. So really each episode was great and kind of like led right into the next one. And like I said, all 10 episodes, I think I binged it in like a week. I was really into it. The show is actually based on several books by Hugh Howey, Howey. I probably butchered his name. But so it's a television show adaptation of the books. And I was reading some of the books reviews online. They're apparently great too. The end of season 1 like really leaves you wanting like a season 2. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you haven't seen the show, check it out. Definitely worth watching. I think like even by like the first and second episode, it just like hooks you, and the acting is like really great. Everybody's like a great actor on the show. Phenomenal performances, really great storyline, just a really cool setting. So check that out on Apple TV Plus. And the other show I actually just finished a couple of days ago was Twisted Metal on Peacock. So that's a Peacock exclusive show that just came out. And it has 10 episodes as well, and they put those all up at the same time. So if you wanted to binge that show, you can do that right now. You don't have to wait week to week. They're all up on there. The show debuted on July 27th, and it's kind of made with Sony Pictures Television and PlayStation Productions and a couple other production companies. So this is more one of PlayStation's, more towards movement into television and movies. And I know a lot of people were like hating on this show like before it came out, like just based on like some of the trailers and the premise of it and things like that. Especially like online, people were like really negative about it. I know there was like a sneak peek clip or some sort of trailer with like Sweet Tooth and John Doe, played by Anthony Mackie, who is the main character. They were singing the Thong Song by Cisco, that old song from the late 90s or whatever, and people are like, oh, this is stupid, this is not Twisted Metal. But if you actually watch the show, it's a really fantastic like adaptation of the games. The characters are all great. They all have like really good chemistry together. Anthony Mackie's great as the main character. I think John Doe is one of those characters from like Twisted Metal Black or something, which came out in 2001 for the PS2. So really like the Twisted Metal franchise itself, like the last game came out in 2012 on the PS3. So it's really heyday was the first couple of Twisted Metals on PlayStation 1 in the 90s. So it's kind of, there might be like a little disconnect of people like who remember the games and played them, and like maybe new people that don't know anything about the games. But I think for both people, if you're a fan of the games or you don't know anything about the games at all, like it's a really great show. The rest of the cast features several kind of people you probably recognize on screen. One of the other main characters is Stephanie Beatrice from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She plays a character named Quiet, who is one of the main characters with John Doe. And then one of the antagonists is Thomas Hayden Church as Agent Stone, who probably familiar with for playing Sandman and a couple of the Spider-Man movies. And then Twisted Metal, Sweet Tooth actually is played by professional wrestler Samoa Joe and voiced by Will Arnett, who I believe his production company or media company was part of the approval of the show and things like that. So his company played like an integral role in it. Samoa Joe was great. Like he fits like Sweet Tooth perfectly. Will Arnett's voice is awesome with it. It kind of all goes together. And there's other minor characters. One guy is named Stu, played by Mike Mitchell, and another guy's his friend is named Mike, played by Taj Vaughns. I probably butchered his name too, but they were great. They kind of had like a best friends like relationship on the show, but it was like conflict between each other, and they kind of played off each other well. So the show was like really funny right from the start. It's like good humor too. It's not like cheesy, like crappy, lame humor. It's pretty funny. And all the characters, like I said, on screen have like really great chemistry together. I thought Anthony Mackie was like awesome as John Doe, and you kind of learn more about his story and everything. They definitely teased a season 2. Hopefully that's coming. And I thought it was just a really great adaptation. Just like car combat scenes. They had like, just general like action scenes and stuff. It's a really, really cool adaptation for that. I think at maybe one point, I don't know if there was a movie or something in the works, like in the 2010s or something, but this was definitely a really cool adaptation of the show. I really, really liked it. Definitely check it out. Like I said, hopefully there is a season 2. I know like they just came out that Peacock, the streaming service, lost the company $651 million in 3 months this year between April and June, and they're at 24 million subs. So that's really not good. A lot of streaming services losing money. So hopefully, with PlayStation behind it, if it doesn't get picked up on Peacock again, somebody takes it, because like that'd be really cool to see a season 2, because they definitely set one up like great, and the ending was really cool. So again, great show, awesome show, really great adaptation of the games. Somebody who played them in the 90s, I thought it was really cool. But even like I said, if you don't know anything about the games or the characters, it's still a fun show to watch, and you'll kind of maybe like get interested in checking out the games. And if you're a Comcast subscriber, I think you can actually get a subscription for free for like a year or 2 to Peacock. So might want to check that out if you're a Comcast customer. Definitely worth checking out the show and signing up for it, for this particular show, because I know like Peacock has basically like nothing else on it besides like The Office and like WWE Pro Wrestling. So there's really not much original great content on there, but Twisted Metal is like really, really good. So if you were kind of like skeptical like before the show came out, like checking it out now, I think you're going to be like really surprised and like really love the show, especially like the last couple of episodes are like really, really good. Moving on to some movie talk. A lot of good movies that came out this summer. So a couple of weeks ago, I saw both Barbie and Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, if you haven't seen it, definitely go check that movie out. It's probably my all-time favorite movie, or at least one of them. Just phenomenal acting from everybody, top to bottom, from main characters to just people that are on screen for parts of the movie. Like, everybody killed it. And I thought Barbie itself too was really funny, really creative, really awesome movie too. Just totally 2 different movies. Like, one's like really serious about this historical event that affected, millions of people and changed the world, and Barbie's more like kind of silly and stuff. But it's really definitely has some like a message to it as well, and just really creative the way it was put together, and the acting was really funny and stuff. So if you haven't seen either movie, check them out. I know Oppenheimer made looks like over $440 million worldwide as of August 1st, so that's a pretty successful movie. Another movie I do want to see, but probably won't be able to because I don't know what's going on with it, is The Baker with Ron Perlman. So who played Hellboy. He was on one of the main characters on Sons of Anarchy. He's been in a ton of stuff. Great actor. I kind of saw trailers for this a while ago, and it came out on Friday, July 28th, and I was kind of trying to find like movie times around me. I live in Chicago, so you would think it wouldn't be too hard to see like a new movie, but there was just like nothing. Like, a lot of the AMCs weren't showing it, and if they were like in the suburbs, or there was like weird movie times. So I don't know if that's just me or what I was looking up online or just my area, but I kind of get the feeling that this movie's going to bomb. Probably going to bomb really hard and probably make like no money. And it's also not being promoted right now because of the writers and actors strike, so I think that hurts it too. But it's basically the movie's about Ron Perlman playing, as you would expect, a baker who I think his relative or something, maybe his son or something, I don't know, but like has like a daughter, and then this guy's in trouble, and then Ron Perlman's character ends up like kind of taking care of her, but like he's also this like badass character and tries to like save the day type thing. So it's like an action movie. I thought it looked really good, but I think it's just gonna bomb, and probably I'll have to wait till it comes out on streaming, because it's just like it just seems too difficult to watch this movie, at least in my area, or to check it out. So, but even like they had like, you check out the movie times, there's like Oppenheimer, Barbie, Mission Impossible, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all this stuff, and you're just like, there's like nothing for the baker. So it's just really weird why that's just, I guess they kind of just sent this one out to die. But I still think it looks pretty good, and hopefully it ends up on some streaming servers or something relatively soon. And speaking of Ninja Turtles, I'm probably going to go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which is the new animated movie that just came out. It's getting really great reviews. It currently has a 95 critic rating and a 95 audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's kind of like a reboot, I guess, a storyline. Like the art style, looks really cool. And there's also a lot of cool like toys and stuff with it at retail if you're into that. Like at Target and stuff, like a ton of stores have cool movie-related stuff with it. I think the movie looks really awesome. Like I said, it's getting killer reviews. People really putting it over really big, so I definitely want to check that out in the next coming weeks. And another movie that I missed when it came out, but I do want to see, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Is now on Disney Plus streaming, and it's also on physical copies, Blu-ray, I think 4K, as of August 2nd. The movie launched in theaters on May 2nd, and I just totally missed it. I kept saying I was going to go see it, and then got to the point where it's not even in theaters anymore, so I totally missed it. But I love the other Guardians movies. They were great. And this one at box office did over $845 million worldwide, so I think it was pretty successful in that regard. And I heard the movie was pretty good too. So now it's on streaming, so I'll probably check it out on there. Going into some comic book news. I'm more of a comic book collector than reader, usually how it goes. I have like a monthly pull list of stuff that I get from a local comic book shop here in Chicago. Mostly been pulling Marvel and some Image stuff and a couple DC books. But some stuff I've recently read that I think if you're into comic books, you should check out is a new series called The Phantom Road by Jeff Lemire. It's basically, I think I've read 5 issues so far. There might be another one that's out at stores right now. But basically the story is this like truck driver kind of like is going down the road, and he encounters this weird artifact item that kind of sends him into like a alternative reality. So it's kind of like a horror comic to it, and there's like a FBI agent like investigating these like weird murders that are tied to this. So it's a really trippy comic. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic type thing, but not really, but it's really good. Jeff Lemire is like, he's a pro. He kills it. Like he's one of the best comic book writers right now. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And another book, that one's on Image Comics. Another one that's on Image is a new series called Indigo Children by Kurt Pierce. And this one's only, again, I think maybe 5 issues in. I've only read the first 4. I got the 5th one waiting for me at my comic shop. And it's a kind of another, kind of like a crazy storyline where a bunch of kids have like these superpowers, and like the government is like hunting them down because they're like dangerous or something. And these kids like originally like their memories were wiped or something, so they don't really know who they are. And then they're like discovering who they are. So now they're going after like the people that they're trying to free their friends that were with them. They have their own powers. And meanwhile, they're being hunted by every government agency in the world. So that's a really cool book. The art's really good too. And I could definitely see it becoming like a TV show, but it's a really cool story, really cool book. Check that out too. It's on Image Comics. And just in general, I'm mostly caught up on like the Amazing Spider-Man current series by, I believe Zeb Wells is writing it. And it's just okay. It's been kind of disappointing. It just seems like the Spider-Man book has not been like great And I would think like on like Marvel's side, like they would make that like a priority. Like a lot of people are like complaining about Spider-Man right now, like just how like bad the book is and stuff, and it just really hasn't been great. And I usually don't like complain about comics. Like usually what I read most of the stuff and I like most of what I read, but even like for me, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like just lame, like what they've done with like Miss Marvel and how they've kind of killed her off and brought her back when she died in a recent Spider-Man issue, and the story just kind of just not interesting right now. So I hope it picks up at some point, but I would kind of like never stop pulling that because Spider-Man's my favorite. But in general, my pull list and backlog of comics is just so behind. It's like almost impossible to catch up, but I'm slowly making my way through it, trying to get my stuff from my local shop quicker and reading through the books faster. That's kind of like the stuff that sticks out recently, and I'll probably have more next time to go through as far as like the comic side. But moving on from that, we got some video game talk. So there's been a lot of news in the past week and a lot of interesting stuff going on. So kind of the one thing I'll lead into with is that it came out that Nintendo's new console, whatever it ends up being called, the Switch 2 or the next gen console for Nintendo, the development kits are out for it. It's being reported by VGC, Video Games Chronicle, that their sources have told them that a new console is probably coming in the second part of 2024. The story broke on Monday, July 31st, and VGC kind of reported that, like I said, it's likely to have release in the second part of 24. Key partner studios have development kits right now, but the studios weren't named, so we're not really sure. Of course, internally, probably Nintendo Studios has them, but as far as like, third-party companies, they didn't really name anybody who might be working on stuff. It will play physical games using a cartridge slot. That's what they've reported. And it potentially has an LED screen instead of the OLED screen that the Switch has right now to keep the cost down of the system. And can be played in portable mode, but backwards compatibility hasn't been confirmed yet, which is kind of weird because it does have I guess they reported it does have a cartridge slot, so you would kind of think that it would be, especially considering the big user base of the Switch. They would want everybody to have their games being able to play on that, and Nintendo's been like so bad with like backwards compatibility, so it would be great if like all these games would just like switch over. But I know an issue too with like the Switch carts was that, which is probably going to be interesting to see what they upgrade to as far as like size of the carts. That's kind of been held back. I think they're maxed out at 32 gigabyte. Might be wrong about that. Compared to games now on like, PS5 and Xbox, that like that's like an update. That's a patch, So they definitely need, I think, bigger cartridges, memory on there. But it will be playing physical games using a cartridge slot. So it's going to be interesting. It's kind of about time. They're going to be pushing the console to get something new. The Switch has been out since March 2017. But they have such a killer lineup this year. They've had Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Later this year, they have Super Mario RPG remake. They have a new 2D Mario game coming out. So they have like so much good stuff still coming out. But, I think a lot of people were like wanting another Switch 2 or its successor, whatever they end up calling it, just to push the hardware capabilities, kind of more in line with, maybe PlayStation 5 or something. I don't know if they were be able to do that, but I think it's kind of the hardware is a little bit outdated. So it's about time they put something out new, and we'll probably hear some more stuff coming in the future, but this seems pretty concrete. And Video Game Chronicle is pretty good about reporting stuff. So I guess we'll hear more, the second part of 2024, that comes quick. So probably next console then. And in other Nintendo news, they announced during their latest earnings release that as of June 30th of 2023, the Nintendo Switch has passed sales of 129.53 million in consoles, which makes it the third best-selling console of all time. So the PlayStation 2, this is what I looked up, just a quick Wikipedia search. the PS2 is at 155 million, and the Nintendo DS is a little over 154 million. So since March 2017, when the Switch launched, it's sold over 129 million consoles, which is just crazy how successful and popular this is. It's even sold more than the Wii, which I was surprised about. And they also put out a list of basically the top selling games for the Switch of all time. And one of them that immediately stuck out was Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is past 18.51 million copies. And the game just came out like on May 12th, so it's still relatively new. And it's already the 9th best-selling game ever for the Switch. So that is really crazy how good that game is selling. I have yet to play it. I haven't even played Breath of the Wild yet. I'm kind of like embarrassed to say that, but I need to get on these Zeldas at some point. There's just so many games coming out, but really awesome to see that game selling so well. The best-selling game of all time for the Switch is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 55.46 million. That's a great game too that just keeps selling. It's crazy how popular that game is. Number 2 is Animal Crossing New Horizons at 42.79 million. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is at 31.77 million. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is at 30.65 million. And that combines the Wii U sales too, but I think the Wii U sales were probably like not even a couple million, maybe 1 to 2 million or something like that. So yeah, I will have a link to the full list in the show notes there. But yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is at number 1 with over 55 million, and number 10 is New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at 16.17 million. So gangbusters as far as the Switch games are concerned, really selling well. And PS2 is still number 1 at 155 million, but I think the Switch could pass that and take number 1, which is just crazy how much consoles have sold. But moving on from that, we have some Final Fantasy news. So I've been playing Final Fantasy 16, which came out, was it last month already or longer than that? But Final Fantasy 14 is getting a new expansion planned called Dawn Trail for summer 2024. And the game itself is actually coming to Xbox in spring 2024. So it's the first time the game's going to be on Xbox. It's going to be on Xbox Series X and S. And this was announced during the Final Fantasy Fan Fest in Las Vegas on Friday, July 28th. So I don't know too much about these expansions. I just kind of got interested in Final Fantasy 14 because a lot of the key people that made Final Fantasy 16, which I'm really, really enjoying and I'm going to talk about later in the show, had worked on FF14, so they're key people in that development, the producers, the director, etc., all those guys. So I was like kind of retroactively interested in Final Fantasy 14 after playing so much of FF16. So this new expansion, Dawn Trail, it's going to add a new region to the game and the storyline. It sounds like it's the game's 7.0 update. So it kind of shows you how long they've been supporting this. I know there's like several expansions out for FF14. It's also going to add 2 new job classes, potentially a Beastmaster class, so adding some new content there. And kind of going along with the Final Fantasy XIV expansion news, the game's producer, I'm going to butcher his first name, so Naikoi Yoshida, aka Yoshi P, I'm sorry, I just butchered his name, but he's also the producer on Final Fantasy XVI. And he said something to the effect that Final Fantasy XIV is like a TV show that you shouldn't skip through. You should watch it from like a TV show you would watch from the start to whatever season they're on at the ending. He views the game the same way, that there's new expansions coming out next year. There might be the latest expansion. It's out now, but his train of thought is thinking, play all the expansions, play the game from the beginning, and watch. It's like a TV show that you shouldn't just kind of skip over parts. You should watch it from beginning to end. And I've read online that's kind of been the case. Like Final Fantasy XIV apparently has like a really great story. I've read a lot of people post that online and talk about it on social media. So he kind of compared it to Square releasing, the sixth season of a TV show, which they're releasing, and you don't start with that. You go back and watch the first season, second and third, and so on. He's got a quote in saying that we made it so that season 1 is very easy to get through and binge, talking about the Final Fantasy XIV game itself. And he kind of went on to say that the old content in the game is still relevant and not outdated or actually old. I think, especially in like games, you look at something like that, like, oh, this stuff came out years ago, it's old. I want to play like the new expansion, especially for like MMOs. I feel, people are geared towards the latest expansion, and you're not really prone to like start from the beginning. You want to jump into like the new stuff because you're probably talking about like hundreds of hours, maybe. I'm just assuming that you might have to get into to play through all this stuff. But he's like, no, the old content is still important. It's still relevant. They update it, and they kind of view it like, yeah, this is a long, continuous story, and just like a TV show, binge it. Just watch it from the start, play it from the start, and go through that. So I thought that was interesting how they view that game as this long process. This game's been out forever. So, and it's going into 2024 and probably beyond. So I'm definitely interested in playing this. I wasn't really before because I was like, I don't want to play an MMO. That stuff's lame. It's not for me. But I think after playing Final Fantasy 16 and just seeing the people that were involved with the game, and they're so important on this game, as far as the development side, I got more interested in it. But I just don't have time right now. There's just so many games coming out. So I'm probably going to definitely check this out, like maybe when this expansion comes out, and play it from the start. So that was kind of interesting news. And in kind of weird game preservation news that turned out to not be that anyway, was Activision supposedly misplacing several Transformer games, but it turns out they actually didn't. So basically, several Transformers games that came out several years ago. So Transformers Devastation, which came out in 2015. That was the action title by Platinum Games. That had like a cartoon look to it, like a cel-shaded look. It was really a pretty good game. And then 3 games that were linked together as sequels. So the first game was Transformers War for Cybertron in 2010 for PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. So definitely from that gen. And then the next game, Transformers Fall of Cybertron in 2012, for the same consoles. And then Transformers Rise of the Dark Spark in 2014. I think a couple of these games were actually ported to PS4 and Xbox One and stuff like that. But those games are connected as sequels. And I guess right now the only way to play these games is with physical copies because you can't buy them digitally on any of the stores. And I don't know if they're backwards compatible yet on Xbox. Definitely if they're PS3, you can't play them. But the PS4 versions you should be able to play on PS5. But the story kind of came out a couple days ago that Activision had supposedly lost these games, and that's why they weren't on any of the stores and they weren't on Game Pass, because the actual code itself was gone. And these comments were originally made during an interview by the Hasbro team at San Diego Comic-Con during an interview that was posted on July 28th, and this is the quote. Says the Hasbro representative said, sadly, apparently Activision's not sure what hard drives are on in their building. When a company eats a company that eats a company, things get lost, and that's very frustrating. And they had a follow-up part to that, and hope is that now that the deal is moving forward with Microsoft and Xbox, they'll go through all of the archives and every hard drive to find it all, because it's an easy Game Pass ad. We want those games back up for people to have a chance to play. So the representative was talking about the merger between Microsoft and Activision that's probably going to go through. It's in the finalization process. I've always heard these games were pretty good. I've never played them except for Devastation, which I actually wrote a review for. And if you're interested in checking that out, you can go to quarterdisorder.com and just search for Transformers Devastation. A review will pop up. I wrote it when the game came out. But apparently this guy, whoever the representative was, the person was wrong, because the Activision EVP and Chief Communication Officer Lulu Meservi stepped in and commented on a picture of an article on Twitter. She commented on Twitter, so she kind of like put her comments, with the article headline that said, Hasbro wants to re-release old Transformer video games, but Activision lost the code. And basically her tweet was, or her X was, I don't know what they're calling it, so just their X, their Zeets. She said, these headlines are wrong. We have the code. It's lost and never was. It's not lost and never was. She said that on August 1st. And then Hasbro came out and apologized for saying Activision lost the games. They probably got scolded, be like, yo, what are you saying? Saying all this crazy stuff that we lost games. Hasbro said, we apologize to Activision and regret any confusion. They've been great partners, and we look forward to future opportunities to work together. Of course, they've been great partners. So that cleared that up. So people were like, Activision lost these games. Like, this sucks. Like, I don't know how many people out there are like, yeah, I got to play this Transformers game from 2010. But I think they should be available. They should be on Game Pass. It'd be really great. There was just a Transformers movie that came out. I believe these games are based on some of the movies. I haven't seen any of these, so I don't know what they're about story-wise. But it just makes sense to be able to have these games available. And Activision's got a deep library of stuff that's kind of like these games. You can't play them unless you find a physical copy. So that would be cool to actually get them on a digital platform and on Game Pass especially. I'm thinking it's probably a licensing issue between Hasbro and Activision and the Transformers license. It's like, okay, well, they're going to pay all this money to put these games on. Is it worth it on their aspect to even do it? To put these 4 games up, or is there a market for it? Do people actually want to play them? That kind of thing. But did make the news, I think, because initially the guy said, or the representative said they lost the hard drives. Kind of sounds like they're just in some dusty closet or something, buried under some boxes. We can't find these hard drives with 4 games on them. But not the case, according to Activision's chief communications officer. So if you believe Activision, they still got them, but they're just not doing anything with them. So games aren't lost, they're just in purgatory, basically, because I'm assuming because of licensing issues and stuff. But just another example of game preservation and how it's just hard to play some of, and these games aren't really that old. I mean, they're old, but not super old, from the 80s or something. Even then, it's hard to play some of these games. I think Transformers Devastation was actually, I want to say it was free on Games with Gold or something, or it was on Game Pass at one point. I remember seeing it somewhere, maybe PlayStation Plus, but that's the most recent one. That was a pretty cool game, and the other 3 I heard were pretty good. But I guess, like I said, if you don't have the physical copy or a digital at some point, maybe you can still play them. But I guess that right now, if you want to play them, it's a little bit difficult. So they're not lost, they're just not doing anything with them. And moving on to another new game that is in the news. It just came out. Remnant 2 sold 1 million copies during its first week of launch. Developer Gunfire Games and Gearbox Publishing announced the news. And the game released on July 25th, which is a sequel to 2019's Remnant from the Ashes. And they also made point to say that Remnant 2 has double the user base of the first game already. So that's pretty cool. This is a game I really want to play, and I've been wanting to play the first game really bad, co-op, because it just looks cool. It's kind of I don't know how to really describe it properly, but a Dark Souls type game, but not too much Dark Souls, mixed with action and a co-op type thing. And the sequel has been getting really great reviews and a lot of hype, people playing it online, and obviously the sales are there too, so people are into it. I definitely want to play the first one though, but I would probably skip to this one as well. But just a heads up, if you're interested in that game, that it did come out July 25th, and it seems to be doing well. They're happy with it, the sales, I guess. They're put out a press release about it, so seems to be doing good. And moving from that to some more kind of just negative, just kind of sad news for the developers of a certain game that came out last year. So the Callisto Protocol developer, Striking Distance Studios, announced they are laying off some staff. The news broke on Wednesday, August 2nd, and they've apparently laid off 32 employees were let go from the company. And I think there was Insider Gaming website posted a story that some former employees of Striking Distance Studios had posted on LinkedIn that they were looking for work. And so I don't know if they were involved in the 32 or just other people had left in addition to that on their own. But ever since this game came out, it's kind of been a lot of negativity around it. So the publisher is Krafton, which is a relatively new South Korean company founded in 2018. They kind of own the game PUBG, so they're kind of known for that. And originally this Callisto Protocol was actually going to be in the PUBG universe until it kind of became this like Dead Space homage, or whatever you want to call it. So in the press release they say the layoffs of the 32 employees was to realign the studio's priorities to better position its current and future projects for success. So the studio is based in California. I don't know how many people they had at the studio. I had done an article about this company earlier this year because they had left off several developers in the game's credits. I guess people that had left before the game was finished and things, scenarios like that. And I think there was like 180 something employees. So I mean, it's not like a massive studio. So 32 employees. It's a lot of people let go. It's a lot of people's lives that are affected and impacted on this. They have to look for work now. It's not a good time either. With everything going on in tech and things like that, and just all these layoffs. It sucks for these people. And this was supposedly it wasn't a AAA game. So AAA game, big blockbuster stuff. This was a quadruple A game, 4 A's. 3 A's wasn't enough. You had to add another A in there. It was a quadruple A game, and it cost $162 million to make, which was the game's budget, which just seems like just crazy for a game like this. So they really went all in as far as spending goes. This was a game that was made by a new studio that was formed a couple of years ago, Striking Distance Studios. It was formed by Glenn Schofield, who was the original Dead Space creator. So Dead Space came out in 2008 for the PS3 and Xbox 360 from Electronic Arts and I believe Visceral Games. And he was the creator of that, and he also co-founder of Sledgehammer Games, who did a lot of stuff for Call of Duty and Activision. So he got his own studio. He was a studio head, and the game just fell short of sales expectations. So it sold over 2 million copies, which is pretty good, right? It was on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and also on PS4 and Xbox One. The current gen versions were $70, so they were $10 more. I think the PC version itself was also $70 as well. But sold over 2 million copies, but it had a target of 5 million. I mean, they spent too much money on the game, really high expectations. And when the game came out, it launched in December. So it was kind of in a rock and hard place because, it's got this massive hype behind it, which a lot of it from the developer and from the studio. You don't call something a quadruple A game and all this stuff. It's just kind of silly. But, it was kind of racing against the clock because EA had announced they were releasing the Dead Space remake. I think it came out in January, so they only had a couple of months or even a month to get this game out. It came out in December, and then Dead Space came out the next month. And when it came out, the reviews were just really bad. The PS5 version is currently at a 69 Metacritic score with 85 critic reviews, which is not great, especially when you're charging $70 for this game. That's a tough sell for a game that's just didn't really perform well for a lot of players. I believe it also caused the publisher to kind of reevaluate some of their goals as far as what we're going to do with the studio and things like that. Another issue with the game is that the studio had gotten backlash for crunch culture. So it came out that Glenn Schofield, who is the head of the studio, he had put out some tweets basically during the game's development it kind of came across like you're promoting like overworking your employees. So this guy's like an old school guy. I think he's obviously been in the industry a long time, and basically his tweet was this. He tweeted last September, so September 2022, about the team, working these long hours just to finish the game and get it out. So, quote, he had said, "We are working 6 to 7 days a week. Nobody's forcing us. Exhaustion, tired, COVID, but we're working. Bugs, glitches, performance fixes." He said perf fixes. But so this was a tweet that he put out. Perf fixes. "One last pass through audio. 12 to 15-hour days. This is gaming. Hard work. Lunch, dinner, working. You do it because you love it." And he immediately got backlash for it because it's like promoting like crunch culture for this game, and then like, oh, you're tired, you have COVID, just keep working, keep crunching, keep killing yourself so we can get this game out. And it really didn't look good because he's like the CEO of the company and stuff. It's like, well, if the CEO is saying that, like, of course, like you're probably, if you're like one of the people that just doing like a 9 to 5, you're probably gonna be like, I don't know how that the company culture is, but it's probably not gonna look good on you. And after that tweet came out and blew up, he apologized to the team at the studio for making those comments and publicly apologized. He said, "We value passion and creativity, not long hours." So not a good look when you kind of make people crunch, or there was a culture of crunch and working these crazy hours, especially like you're sick with COVID and you got to get this video game out, and then you just let go all these employees afterwards. That's not really good. And there's like just crediting issues with certain people of the game. So there's a lot of issues like surrounding this game. So it's really disappointing to see that they let go so many people. Again, this is not a massive studio with thousands of people. I think it's got less than 200 employees at one point. So 32 employees is a lot of people. Apparently the game, aspects of it were pretty good, but I just remember like reading some of the reviews and comments where people are like, yeah, if you die in a combat section or something, or die a part of the game, you got to go all the way back and do it all over again. It's like, I don't have time for that, man. That's, you're dying in a game, you got to spend all this time just to get back to where you were. And I guess there was some issues with the combat, and maybe the story was kind of half-cooked. So it definitely had issues, but there was like potential there. But I think the studio itself just has issues itself, just going on with like with the development of it. And then you just kind of go out and just crazy expectations for a game, just promoting it as this quadruple A game, spending so much money on it, and then falling way short of internal sales expectations of 5 million. So then 32 employees are let go now. So hopefully all those people land on their feet. Best wishes to all of them, because I bet they're all pretty incredibly talented, and it's unfortunate they have to kind of suffer now because of just poor management or bad decision making or whatever happened here. But hopefully they can bounce back and get into other projects and get into something quickly. But yeah, Callisto Protocol is a game that I was into, but then there was just so much stuff, again, surrounding it. I think the high price point hurt it, definitely, and then the reviews come out. It's like, yeah, this is definitely a skip. And then you read about some of the issues with the game itself outside of anything else, as far as, gameplay issues and things like that, kind of like discourages people. And then a month later, Dead Space comes out and kills it. Everybody loves Dead Space, the remake. So I think that was the major selling point of the studio. It was like, oh, we got the guy that made Dead Space. We're going to make our own Dead Space. And then it comes out and it's like flat. So I don't know what's the future for the studio. I know the final downloadable content called Final Transmission for the game just released in June. It's also got a $30 season pass on top of it. So it's like this old, it's like season passes. It's like so PS3 era, when Dead Space came out. So it's a lot of this old stuff like that. But they did wrap up the DLC for that, so they did get everything out. I think there was other content as far as like cosmetics and maybe like a horde type mode or something like that. So the Final Transmission DLC, that was I believe the only story mode DLC that came out, which just released. So again, best wishes to all the people laid off and anyone who left the studio. before then and is trying to find work, and hopefully everybody bounces back quickly. So on to another game that's got a bunch of issues, and I laughed when I saw this news because I just couldn't believe. Actually, I can believe, but you still can't believe it. It's like, what are they thinking? PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions of Star Wars Jedi Survivor is in development from Electronic Arts. So this is a game that launched for the current consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series, and PC on April 28th. And it's a sequel to 2019's Jedi Fallen Order, which got really great reviews. People love the game. But Jedi Survivor apparently to this day still has poor performance issues, game crashes, freezes, save data corruption issues, low FPS, low, just bad performance in general on PC and consoles, and it's been that way since launch. And a lot of people have talked about this in the game media and on forums and social media and things like that. But they are making a PS4 and Xbox One version. These consoles will not die. I mean, they're still pumping these games out for these old consoles, and it's kind of like almost insulting to people because like the game they have out now that they were charging $70 for or whatever is broken. So many issues people have with the game, hasn't been fully fixed. Will it ever be fixed? Who knows? And let's instead of putting more resources into that, let's put some resources on making an old version of a game so we can make some more money. Because people are going to buy this game and they may not know that they have all these issues. If this game does not run well on PS5 and Xbox Series X, I cannot imagine this game's going to run good on like a base PS4. I just can't see any scenario where that does. But maybe they cut features, maybe they tone down the graphics. I don't know, but it just seems like a total cash grab. They kind of put out some quotes with the news. Electronic Arts CEO Andrew Wilson said, "Our team at Respawn proudly launched this title. It's a critical acclaim and commercial success. Millions of players have already engaged with the game, making this one of the biggest events in the Star Wars galaxy this year." Which I just love, these just fluff, empty quotes that mean nothing, that say nothing when the game has so many issues, and these companies putting out these broke games that for a lot of people still don't work. And it's like, well, we got your money. Like, what do we care? It's not like you can go to Best Buy or Amazon and say, hey, this game doesn't work. Give me my money back. So it's just kind of, I don't think it's said if Respawn, who's the developer of the game, is doing this or this is a port or somebody else is taking care of it, but they're in development, so probably coming out at some point, maybe next year or something like that. But just to focus on that, when especially for this particular game, when the game that just came out in April still has so many issues. It currently has a mixed rating on Steam with 32,213 total reviews as of this podcast recording. And if you look at the homepage of the Steam game page, there's a lot of like not recommended reviews and just people complaining about performance and stuff. I know it's like PC and people are like, well, that's what you get for playing on PC. You're gonna have all these issues. But even like console people have issues with just bad performance, low frame rates, crashing and stuff. Like, who wants to deal with that? And like I said, I can't imagine the Xbox One version and PS4 version doing any better. So it's going to be interesting when this game actually comes out. They probably get the initial sales of it, and then it's the same issue again. So these companies will just keep doing this stuff, putting these broke games out, and now we're going back to old consoles because, gotta get more sales out of it. So I don't know what the sales numbers for this were. I assume they were pretty good. I know Jedi Fallen Order is a pretty popular game. Was highly praised, but I do want to play Jedi Survivor, but I don't want to play a game that's messed up. So kind of goes into the thing, well, if I wait for a sale, it's $20, then you're kind of running into issues. Like, well, do I really want to be frustrated when playing a game? Especially with this and support that. So it kind of goes into like, maybe I wait for a sale to maybe I just skip this one entirely and just don't even deal with it. So, but if you're still hanging on to the PS4, still gaming on Xbox One, you're like, man, I really want to play that Star Wars Jedi Survivor. you might be in luck if you wait. I'm assuming this is going to come out like maybe next year or something, but that game is in development, so I guess keep an eye on that. Hopefully there's a complete fix to the game that's actually out now that's got so many issues, but there was nothing in the press release and comments about that, just how they're going to how it's going to be so great for Star Wars, and they're expanding the Star Wars universe and all that stuff. So, in some other game news, an indie game that's coming out shortly, looks really cool. I think a lot of you guys will be interested in it. Is a game called Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Now has a release date for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox consoles. So this game is basically a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio. It literally looks like it, same graphical style. Characters are on like rollerblades and stuff like that, and it looks really, really cool. Game is coming out September 1st for PS5 and PS4, and then all Xbox consoles. So Xbox One, including Series X. And the Switch and PC versions have already been confirmed for August 18th, and it's going to cost $40. So I did a story on this on Quarter Disorder earlier this year in April when some more details came out about the game. So I will include that link in the show notes so you can check this game out. There's a trailer in there. It looks really, really cool. I definitely want to play this. $40 does seem kind of high. Maybe initial impressions, I'm looking at that, like, ooh, $40. But if it's good, I know a lot of people do like that Jet Set Radio. That's still a cult classic to this day. So it basically, like I said, looks like a spiritual successor to that. So check that out. I will, again, post that in the show notes for this episode, and it's coming out on all consoles. A couple weeks for the Switch and PC, and then September 1st for PlayStation and Xbox. And another game that came out earlier this week on Monday, came out on Monday, July 31st, is Venba, which is now on Game Pass. So if you have a Game Pass subscription, you can play that game right now and download it. And it's also on all other consoles, Switch, PS5, and PC. And this is basically a cooking game with puzzle elements to the cooking with all authentic Indian food. So the storyline is basically you're playing a character named Venba, who is an Indian woman who is married, and her and her husband moved to Canada from India in the 1980s, and they eventually have a son, and kind of the game goes along the storyline of like kind of their struggles in a new country, and then connecting to their culture with the food they cook. The recipes, kind of some of the puzzle elements that come into it, the recipes are in an old cookbook passed down from the family, and some of the pages, like when you're playing the game, the recipes will be, the page will be torn or like scratched off or something, so you don't know the exact order you're supposed to put like certain things or cook a certain way, so you kind of have to figure it out yourself. But I really love cooking games, and I was like really excited about this game when I saw it earlier this year. Again, I had written an article about this earlier this year in March. I'll post that in the show notes. I also recorded some gameplay footage because I played it on Xbox Series X. I have an article about that, and I'll post that in the show notes as well. You can check out some footage. It's a really cool game. If you have an Xbox, definitely check it out. I think it's only like 2 hours long based on some of the reviews. Story is supposed to be pretty emotional and really engaging. I feel like into cooking games. I love cooking games. So that was like a day one for me. And if you are interested in buying the game, it's currently on sale for, I believe, 15% off. The base price of $14.99, so there's a discount for the next week or two. Looks like a really great game. This is the studio's first game from, I believe they're called Vasai Games. So seems like a cool team. Really put a lot into making this game as authentic as possible. They themselves are Indian, I believe a lot of the team is, and put their own stories into the game as well. So that's really cool. Definitely a unique type of game, unique story, and again, seems like a different type of cooking element where you have to kind of figure out certain things to do that. It's not just cut and dry. It makes you kind of think. I play a little bit of it in the gameplay video I recorded, and I was messing up the recipes because I suck. But it does give you hints and stuff if you need help. So definitely a cool game. Check that out. If you have Game Pass, no brainer. Check it out and download it. And Another last kind of news item I want to talk about is a new book, a new video game book that came out. So do any of you people read books still? I don't know. But I do, and I was really looking forward to this book. It is called Doom Guy, Life in First Person. It's a new book by John Romero, just released on July 18th. It's got something like 384 pages, so I've been reading through it. I'm about on the 6th chapter, I think about 50 pages in. It's basically an autobiographical story about written by John Romero and his life. He starts out talking about his childhood and some of the lot of dysfunction and environment he grew up in with his family and things like that. And right now in the story, it's talking about his early game development career and kind of course, it's going to go into Doom and Quake and all that stuff and id Software. And the book's gotten really great reviews. If you're into that, definitely check it out. If you're into like old gaming history, from a guy that was there, I actually like that really a lot because I'm at the point now in the book where he's talking about programming for the Apple II, and this is like the 1980s, so this is like way before my time. So, early 82, 81, 83, and just some of the games that he was influenced by, and of course, like Doom is like one of the most influential and most popular games of all time. So to hear from his story is pretty cool. I like the book so far. Definitely check it out if you're into him or his story or any of those games. I did read Masters of Doom that came out years ago. That was about basically how Doom came to be made and id Software and the relationship between John Romero and the rest of the team there and John Carmack and stuff, which is a great book. But this is straight from the source, autobiographical. I cannot say that word. And it's just interesting facts about his life and stuff that a lot of people probably don't know. And looking forward to getting into it more as far as when he starts getting into Doom and Quake and his later career and kind of what he's been up to lately. So definitely check that out. Doom Guy, Life in First Person. You get that on Amazon, other bookstores, and things like that. So moving into games that I've actually been playing. So when I do actually have time to play games, which is not as much as I would like, all I've been really playing lately is Final Fantasy 16. So I bought this game when it came out at launch. I bought the special edition. I think it came with an art book, I think a steel book too, and bought it day one. It's PS5 exclusive, and there's a little background about me in the game. So I have not played a JRPG. I don't know if we can still use that term. Has that been banned? I don't know, but and there was like talk like, oh, you shouldn't say JRPG, but to me it's kind of like that's like a way to kind of differentiate different type of games and stuff. But I have not played a JRPG. I haven't beaten one since probably, I was trying to think, I think 2013 on the PS3. I played the original Ni no Kuni and I beat that. That was a cool game, but that was a long time ago. It's like 10 years now. I used to play RPGs like all the time, like during like the PS1 and PS2 era and like a little bit in the PS3, but then like you just get older and it's like, man, I cannot play like an 80-hour game. It just takes such time commitment, so I kind of fell off of them. So I really don't know what's been going on in like the JRPG world since then. I believe I bought Final Fantasy 13 when it came out. Played it a couple hours, never finished it. Went back to it on Steam a few years later. Same deal, played a couple hours, never finished it. And of course, I never played like Final Fantasy 13 Lightning 2 and Lightning Returns. I never played any of those. And then Final Fantasy 15, as far as like the mainline Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy 15, again, another game I bought at launch. I have a bad habit of doing this where I buy games at release and I just never play them. They just like sit in my backlog. But I bought that when it came out and I played a couple hours and just like never went anywhere with it. And it wasn't like I just didn't like the game or anything like that. I just think at that point in time I was like, I don't have time to play this, and I just like forgot about it. So Final Fantasy 16 is really like the first RPG of this scale that I played in a long time. I used to like love like the old Final Fantasy games. So I was like, okay, let me check this out day one. And so again, going into that, I don't know anything about what's like been current about JRPGs and stuff. It's very basic. I know like Xenoblades came out. People love Xenoblade. Octopath Traveler. I know Bravely Default's another one. I did play the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I thought that was really cool. But as far as like new games, like, Final Fantasy 13, 15, etc., like I haven't played any in a long time. The last Final Fantasy mainline game I beat was Final Fantasy 12 on PlayStation 2. So that's a long time ago. That's a really long time ago. So this is my first jump back into Final Fantasy. So I'm really loving the game. I know people that are more into this stuff, as far as like the RPG side, were like, oh, I don't know about this game. And like I know there's like a lot of people that have already beaten it, of course, or like, oh, the story falls apart, or I didn't like it, or blah, blah, blah. But to me, just like going into it, like not knowing much and not really having like any connection to like JRPGs recently or whatever, I really like the game a lot more than I thought I would. A couple of things I like. I do like the combat. It's not turn-based anymore from what I remember, the games being. It's more like a Devil May Cry, but not. It's that action RPG, and I really like the combat. I feel, I mentioned earlier in this episode how the Final Fantasy 14 team, a lot of those key people on the directors and producers and art people and music, etc., like they worked on Final Fantasy 16. So one of the people that worked on this game for the new combat, formerly worked at Capcom for years and, worked on games, I think like Dragon's Dogma and like Devil May Cry 5 and Monster Hunter. So the combat is like not super complicated right now, but it's like enough to keep me engaged. So I really like it because like I like Devil May Cry, but I'm not really good at the games. But I feel like this is like has hints of that, but it's not full on like hardcore. You're only playing as one character who is a main character named Clive Rosenfield. You're not playing a full party of people, and like your supporting cast, they're basically controlled by the computer. So it's not like the old Final Fantasy games I'm used to where you have a full party and switching out people and stuff like that. This is more just like one character. But I like the story. A lot of the issues, like it's kind of it's one thing I'm pretty bad at is like remembering all the characters' names, and I've read online that people have had that issue too. Like I can't remember all the people's names, and I can't remember all like the kingdoms and the kings, and this country's at war with this country, and what this is called. It's like kind of crazy, and some of the names are pretty silly. But what I can take from the story, I'm probably like 16, 17 hours into the game. And I want to say I'm level 25 going on 26. So I'm pretty into the game, but not like close to beating it. So in the story, there's like issues with how to describe this the best way. So basically, the old summons from the old games, like Shiva and like Ifrit and all these moves that were just moves in the old Final Fantasy games that I remember, they're now like main characters that like certain special individuals are born with, and they're very sought after in the kingdom because there's only like 5 or 6 summons or whatever. So these people are like have all this power because they're the only ones that can summon these huge creatures that have all this strength and magical ability. And there's other people in these kingdoms that are born with magical abilities, but I think the way they describe it is like the more these people use the magic, it starts killing them to eventually where they just become stone and they just die. And these people are treated like second-class citizens. It's actually kind of funny like how rude and just like off base like some of the comments are about these people. They basically treat them like trash. They're called bearers, and they have like a mark on their face, and like it looks like it looks like a Mike Tyson tattoo, but it's not. So they are born with magic, but not to the level of these summons. But these kingdoms look down on them or something. They're basically like slaves and servants to like normal citizens or whatever. So that's like one thing going on. Another thing is like there's this thing called the Blight that is Blight, Blight, that is taking over parts of the world. So basically it comes in there and kills like the land. Everything dies. There's no monsters. You can't grow food there. Nobody can live there. And it's like this thing which kind of like relates, I think, to like climate change or something. That's just kind of my initial impression of it. But the thing that kind of powers the whole world is these things called mother crystals, which are these huge mountains of crystals that people get the magic from. I think it's kind of confusing. I'm trying to do my best to like follow along with this and explain this. It's very confusing, but I do like the story. I like the characters. I want to see where it's going. I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, it falls apart," and blah blah. I've never seen like Game of Thrones. I know like a lot of people were comparing it to that. I think even the developers were at some point. Like, this is a Game of Thrones story. Never seen it. Only seen like a couple episodes. I really don't have that background to it. So from my perspective, it's like, okay, the story's pretty good. I like the characters. They do swear a lot. It's a mature rating, which is kind of funny to see. Like, it's Final Fantasy game. They're saying like the F word, and there's blood and stuff. But yeah, I'm really enjoying my time with it. I'm doing all the side quests. My goal is to beat this game. I'm like notoriously bad at beating games. It takes me like forever. But I'm trying to beat this game before Starfield comes out in September, because when Starfield comes out, that's a whole nother game, a 100-hour game, and it's going to take me forever to finish that. So I really am trying to finish Final Fantasy 16 like this month. So I'm trying to push through it through August into like the first couple of weeks of September, so I can at least try to finish it then. I think I'm making good progress. Like I said, I got like 16 hours maybe. According to like the PS5 like home screen, when you hover over the game, it tells you kind of like the time, how much time you spent, and like I'm level 25, 26, so I'm kind of getting there. I'm getting more powers. I like all the characters. I like Clive. I think he's great. Again, it's coming from somebody who hasn't been really engaged with JRPGs in a while, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I like it a lot, so I'm gonna see it through it. Gonna beat the game, kind of keep playing it and see where it goes. But I like almost everything about it. Like I said, the only thing that's really confusing is just like keeping up with all these weird names and stuff and people and kingdoms. Like I can't remember half these people, and then half of them end up dying anyway. So like just when you're trying to like remember their name in the story, like somebody dies or something. It's like not any like major characters or whatever, but like a major character, like a minor character dies, or somebody in the kingdom invades somebody. It's just a crazy thing. So keeping up with that's been hard, but other than that, I really like the game, really like what they're doing, and because, like I said, because of this, I do want to play Final Fantasy 14 and see what those guys have been up to in that game, because I like this one so much. So I'll probably have to do that as well. Another game I've been playing is Venba, which I just talked about a little while ago on this show. Really like that game. I'm looking to beat that soon because it's only like 2 hours. I probably played like an hour of it so far. I just need to finish that up. And because of the Twisted Metal show that I talked about at the beginning of this episode, I went and downloaded Twisted Metal Black, which is currently on sale for 50% off. So $5. It normally costs $9.99, and I got it for $4.99 plus tax. Playable on PS4 and PS5. It is playable on PS5. The only issue is this version of the game does not have online multiplayer. So if you want to play multiplayer, you need another controller. This game originally came out for the PS2 in 2001. I somehow never played this game. I don't know why. I was trying to remember like back then, like how did I miss this game? Because I had a PS2. I was playing all the games. I was playing Tekken Tag. I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2. I was playing Ratchet and Clank. I was playing everything. I don't know how I missed this game because I loved the Twisted Metal games from the 90s, Twisted Metal 1 and 2. And 3 and 4 were different games too. They were good too, but I think the best one is Twisted Metal 2. That's like the best in the series. I did play Twisted Metal, which was just called Twisted Metal, on PS3 in 2012, and they really just botched that game because there was just so many issues with it. You couldn't connect to the servers, and there was like freezing issues and performance issues. The big thing was like there was just connectivity issues, and I also had like an online pass at the time. So if you had bought a used copy, you couldn't play online. That was when all these game studios and companies were trying to just like rip you off even more. Like, oh, you already bought the game, but we need to get more money out of these used players, which they gave up after the next generation. But that game had so much potential, and it just had so many issues at launch that I think the user base died off, and then it never went anywhere. And there hasn't been a game since that one. That's the last game, 2012. So I had an itch to play a Twisted Metal game. I didn't want to hook up any other systems, so I downloaded this. It's really fun. It does look, the graphics are obviously dated. It's kind of funny because I remember like PS2 graphics were like, oh my god, these like graphics are so insane. Like it's never gonna get better than this. And then now it just looks like poo. So Yeah, but a couple of the characters from the show are in the game you can play as. They have Sweet Tooth, Agent Stone, Raven, and John Doe, the main character. I played a couple rounds against the computer, got whooped. Was trying to figure out the buttons for a bit, but I did get going, and it's a lot of fun. So I think I'm actually going to keep with it and play this through the story mode a bit, because I just really like this type of game. Like I said, it is 50% off, I think, through August 16th or something. They're having some sort of summer sale on PlayStation, so it is playable on PS4 and PS5. If you have a PlayStation Plus Premium subscription, which is the top tier, the top of the top tier of PlayStation Plus, you can play Twisted Metal 1 and 2 on there for quote-unquote free, part of your subscription. You can also download the game on PS5. I would assume in PS4 as well, but on PS5 for $9.99 each, which sucks because I already own these games on the PS3. I believe I probably bought them at the time, the digital games. PS1 classics, which you cannot play on PS4 or PS5, so that sucks because I want to play those, and I don't feel like hooking up my PS3, but I might just to play Twisted Metal 2 again. But Twisted Metal Black is really cool. I don't have any nostalgia for Twisted Metal Black itself because I never played it back then, but I do like the gameplay, and Sweet Tooth's great, and just the whole vibe of the game is really dark and gritty, which I've heard it's a lot different from kind of the other games. So gonna play through that some more. I wish it had online multiplayer, but whatever. I believe the PS2 version even had like a separate disc, or it was like there was like a different release for it back then. So maybe that explains it. I don't know. I will post in the show notes a link to some images and a quick gameplay video I took. I did get like a trophy when playing a Sweet Tooth. I did one of his moves and I got a trophy. So if you want to check out some screenshots and things like that from the game, I will post that in the show notes. And another game I've been playing is, very briefly, is NBA 2K23. Don't ask me why. I just had a basketball itch and I wanted to play a game. And this game was also on sale. I think I only paid like $7 for it on PS5. This must have been like a PS Plus game or something like that at one point that I just didn't get because like everybody on my friends list, you know how like PlayStation, it tells you like, oh, friends who played this game. Like I had like 10 people on my friends list that played this game, and like my friends list is not like super big, just like people that I know and stuff. So I think it must have been a handout at one point for PlayStation Plus, but it's I just had like a itch to play a basketball game, so I played a couple games of that. The character models look weird. The halftime show is weird, like the cheerleaders and other male dancer guys they just look like AI robots doing dances. It's like so not realistic, but I'll probably play a little bit more here and there leading into basketball season. I'm a big basketball fan, so I just kind of had the itch to play it and happened to be on sale. So and at the end of the show, I should be able, at the very end of it, if you listen to the end, I will have comments from my best friend Lewis, who is going to be my co-host for this future episodes of this podcast. He actually beat Final Fantasy 16, and he's going to give his thoughts on it. He's kind of more up to date about that. He's played the other games as well, and he's going to give his comments. Spoiler-free review in a way, and I'll include that at the end of this episode, so stick around for that if it's there. And if it's not on there, it's because I couldn't figure out how to do it. So, a technical issue. But it should be there. So if it's, just hang out to the end of the show and it'll be on there at the end. So, some upcoming games for August that look really cool. It's kind of been a slower month. We're heading into fall and holiday season where we're just going to get killed with major games. But I feel like this year has been just so crazy for just like amazing games. But another game is coming out in August that are really interesting that I want to check out. One of them is called WrestleQuest. So it's coming out August 8th for all the consoles and PC on Steam, plus Android and iOS through, I believe, Netflix Gaming, their gaming division. I'm a big pro wrestling fan. I'm a huge fan. I watch the shows every week. I watch AEW a lot. That's my favorite promotion right now. So I've been a fan since I was a kid. So I always love these wrestling games. This looks like more of like a wrestling RPG with like kind of like retro graphics and stuff. So it's not necessarily like a wrestling game per se, but it is. And they have like real wrestling stars in the game, like Jake the Snake Roberts, Jeff Jarrett. I think I saw L.A. Park in the trailer, and several other guys. Kind of like this old school looking retro like RPG type game to it. Obviously, there's nobody from like WWE currently in the game because they're not gonna let their guys in the game like that. But they'll have like wrestling legends and stuff like that in the game. Looks really cool. I like it. Check that out. It's coming out soon. The other game I'm interested in that I think looks really cool, like I know a lot of people think it sucks, but I want to play it, is Immortals of Avium. I think I said that right, for a game that I'm interested in. I should know how to pronounce it, but it's coming out August 22nd for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And it's like a first-person shooter gameplay with magic in a fantasy world. It's a new IP. I believe I saw this during like Summer Game Fest or something like that, or some sort of presentation a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. I didn't really hear about the game beforehand, so I do want to check this out. I probably won't buy it at launch because it's probably going to be $70, but I do want to check it out. I might just end up getting it. I don't know. I kind of really want to check this out. I don't know why. It just looks cool. It's like I like that first-person gameplay with you're shooting magic instead of guns and stuff. I thought it looked cool, but I know a lot of people were down on it, so maybe take some hesitation, but maybe check out a trailer to see what you think about it. And that's coming out August 22nd. Another game coming out the same day on August 22nd is called Fort Solis. It's coming out digitally for the PS5 and Steam, and a limited physical edition will be available for PS5 as well. I know BestBuy.com has it. I don't know if other stores are going to have it. The retailers, but it's going to be digital at least. And the developers are Fallen Leaf and Black Drakkar Games. I believe that they're new studios, first game for them, I think. I had written an article about this game as well earlier this year, and there's been some more trailers and stuff, but I will include that initial article in the show notes for this podcast episode, so you can kind of check that out. Kind of the hook of this game, it's an interactive story where you kind of go on this, I believe you're on like Mars, and you're like an engineer, and you're like checking out this facility, and there's something wrong, people are missing, you're trying to figure out what happened. And I think the main hook of it is you have two kind of main actors in the game who are voicing the main characters. I believe they're doing motion capture too. So one is Roger Clark, who was the main character Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2, and then Troy Baker, who is another voice actor in the game. So they got some big name actors for this new indie game, which was really interesting. And I like the premise of it. It's kind of like, there's not really like combat per se. I think it's more like a kind of walking through it like a narrative game. You solving puzzles and stuff like that. So it does look pretty cool. I do like it. It's coming out soon. I don't know if this has been like really promoted that much, but they have been putting out a lot of like trailers and press releases and stuff. And it does have those two guys in it, Roger Clark and Troy Baker. So big names. Looks really, really good to me. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm probably going to get that day one, and I'll check that out. And finally, the last game for August that I want to play, coming out August 25th, is Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. This is coming, the developers are From Software, so there's big hype around that. They're now in Armored Core. It's coming to PlayStation and Xbox consoles and PC on Steam. Really looking forward to this. I kind of always been a fan of Armored Core, not really like heavy into it, but always kind of like, okay, Armored Core is cool. Like I can get down with that. And I think the From Software angle, them being the developer is a big hook. So I think that should be pretty cool. I know a lot of people are hyped for it. It looks really great. I definitely want to check that out. So those are 4 games I'm looking forward to in August that are coming out, and hopefully check them all out if you can. And let me know what you think about those games in the show notes and in the show comments, or send an email. And if there's anything else you're looking forward to for the month of August. But that's pretty much going to cover the show, the first unofficial pre-show episode 0. It's a long name for it, but thanks for listening in. Thanks for hanging out to the end. Like I said, the goal for the future of the podcast is to do weekly episodes with my friend Lewis, and I'm in Chicago. He's in Texas. We're figuring out the logistics of that, but kind of be a similar format, talking games, TV shows, pop culture, movies, comics, other stuff in that realm. So if you like this episode or you hated it, just let me know what you thought. I really, really, really appreciate any sort of feedback, positive or negative. It's cool with me. Just any sort of feedback is great. If you have any comments to leave, you can send me an email at feedback@quarterdisorderpodcast.com. That's kind of the official email address for any sort of feedback, obviously, for the show. And like I said, this episode will have a page dedicated to it on quarterdisorder.com. If you go to the homepage of quarterdisorder.com or quarterdisorderpodcast.com, it takes you to the same homepage. There will be a podcast category section at the top of the site, and you can click into the show notes there and go into this episode and leave comments. The show notes will have all the topics that I discussed on this episode, as well as links to news stories, as well as how to subscribe to the show. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. There's an RSS feed. We're on Amazon Music. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can get it. And I also have all the social media on there. Most of the social media accounts are at Quarter Disorder Podcast, the full name. I have a huge list of all the social media accounts and pages that we're on. The only ones that are different are Twitter and Blue Sky and Hive. I remember Hive. Remember how Hive was supposed to be the next Twitter and just utterly flailed and didn't do it. But maybe they'll make a comeback. But if you're on Hive, I'm on there too. I'll go wherever you are. So if you're on Hive, I have an account there too. That one is different as well because of just character limits. But on Twitter and Hive, it's Q Disorder Pod. That's QDISORDERPOD, Q Disorder Pod. And on Blue Sky, the username on there for the podcast page is Quarter Disorder Pod. But everything else, Mastodon, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere, it's Quarter Disorder Podcast. And that's another thing I forgot. If you want to listen to podcasts on YouTube, I will be uploading the show there too. I know I do that a lot sometimes if I'm just doing some work or whatever. So that will be on there as well. And again, appreciate any sort of feedback you can give. We really mean a lot. This is the first episode, so we're just trying to get better at it, trying to get more into it. And just let us know what you think, and look forward to new episodes. Definitely coming up in the fall. We're trying to work it out. It's been a goal of mine to launch this and do an episode. But again, you can follow all the social media pages. You can subscribe by email as well. Email notifications. And if you want to follow me personally, I have my own website at timbowman.me. That's TIMBOWMAN.me. I have all my social media pages on there, website where I do other stuff as well. If you want to follow any of my social media pages, you can follow them on there. And I'm on everything as well. Instagram, Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky, pretty much anywhere people are, I try to be on there. So you can follow me on there as well for show updates, or just see what I've been playing or talking about or watching. But yeah, thanks for listening to the show. I appreciate you checking it out to this point and listening all the way into the end. And look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Hey everyone, this is Lewis, and I'm here to talk about my experience with Final Fantasy 16 for PlayStation 5. So, when I first heard about this game, it was not through YouTube announcements or anything like that. It was through gaming articles. I knew of its existence. I didn't even see a screenshot or anything. I just went completely blind into this game when I picked it up at GameStop. So, a demo was released right before the release of the game, which I did download, but I never got to play. I just did not have time. And the last time I played a mainline Final Fantasy game was 15, apart from the remakes of Final Fantasy 7 now, which I did play. And This didn't catch my eye when it was first, announced because Final Fantasy 15 was originally Final Fantasy 13 Versus, and it just morphed into, Final Fantasy 15. That's the only reason why I was into that game and was very, very hyped. I did not have any hype for this game whatsoever. Had no clue when it was going to come out. And I would look it up here and there on Google just to like, hey, what's coming on the horizon for PlayStation 5 or Xbox or the Switch? And this game would come across here and there. So no hype for me at all, like whatsoever. Now with Final Fantasy 15 that just came out like in 2016, that game was very very open world. Um, Now right before I started my game on Final Fantasy 16, I was playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, another open world game. And jumping into this game now, Final Fantasy 16, I was very happy and shocked a bit that Final Fantasy was not an open world game. It is, but it's not. It's more linear. And I was very happy that Square Enix made that decision because I did not want to fatigue myself with another open world game. Personally, I get exhausted with that, with the side missions and just getting to one place to another. So I was very happy that they took this direction for this game. And one of the most surprising decisions they made also was they made the icons actually matter in this game, which in the other ones they really didn't matter. They were just, cool visuals. I mean, don't get me wrong, this game has cool visuals with the icons, but they made them very, very important. So I was very happy that they decided to go in this direction and made them important to the story of Final Fantasy 16. Now the gameplay, like I was saying about the icons, you can actually control them, and I'm not gonna spoil anything on this, but they're very impressive. The visuals, and whenever you recommend a game to a friend, usually you kind of oversell things like, "Hey, this game looks amazing. This game plays amazing. The story is awesome." And personally, Final Fantasy 16 is all of that, especially the word epic, just because of the visuals and the presentation and the production that they have in this game that just keeps you engaged. Considering that I did not buy a PS4 Pro last gen, I went from regular PS4 to PS5. So seeing these visuals, they were just jaw dropping to me, and I just wanted to see more and more and more. And that's apart from the story, which the story to me in this game was better than Final Fantasy 15, and you just were just engaged the whole time because you're just kind of wondering, man, what's going to happen to this character? What are the consequences? So you were very engaged playing this game. Now, speaking of the characters, the voice work in this game is pretty good, pretty decent. I'm not going to say it's amazing, but there was one character that really stood out to me, and the voice actor is named Ralph Ineson, and he voiced Sid. His voice acting was so good. I kind of hope Square Enix brings him back to voice the next main character in the main line of Final Fantasy 17. I got my fingers crossed. He was just that good. His voice stuck with me the whole game. So the impact of this game for the franchise, I don't think it's going to be remembered as, let's say, Final Fantasy 7, even 8. It'll probably be in the realm of 9 where, yeah, it's good, but it's not celebrated so much. And that's not the fault of this game. It's just there's so many games coming out, and one of the complaints on this game is it's just not a traditional Final Fantasy game. It's more linear, not open world. And that's not the fault of this game. This game is really good. It gets 2 thumbs up from me personally. I loved it. I kind of want DLC. I hope they make it. Just because, if Final Fantasy 15 got DLC, why not this game? This game's story is so much better. And the combat is better also. The attacks, just so well done. I know some of the RPG elements, they're not as detailed as the other games. Some people have even said that, it's God of War Ragnarok is more of an RPG game than this game. Again, it's not a big complaint for me personally, just because, as an adult now, I don't have time to finish games so fast. I mean, don't get me wrong, I clocked in at a little over 49 hours to complete this game. So it was pretty long for me, but I still wanted more. And not saying that this game is short or nothing like that. It's just that I just want to see more of these cool visuals that Square Enix put in this game, and it's just it's so epic. That's the best. That's the word I can use to describe this game. Is just epic. So hopefully, you know, this game doesn't get forgotten because, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not game of the year whatsoever. To me, Zelda so far this year is game of the year, and we got stiff competition like Mortal Kombat, Starfield, Alan Wake, Spider-Man 2 still coming out, and the Mario games. Yeah, this game has stiff competition. Hopefully, if you have a PlayStation 5 by your side, give this game a chance and let me know what you think. And if you do decide to finish the game, I'm more interested in how people interpret the ending. That's more interesting to me than anything. So that's going to be it from me on this side. I hope you all enjoy the game if you do decide to pick it up, and I wish you all well.